Assalamu alaikum, which means peace and blessings be upon you. I mentioned both Jesus and Muhammad's names. Peace be upon them both because they were both messengers of truth and reality. And today, this is a very strong organization that you need information about. They say the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. And so looking for a few good men and women, but I'm gonna let him tell that. I have Brother Salim of the Flaming Crescent Society. Assalamu alaikum.
Well,
And my co-host, which always has a seat on the Underground Railroad, Alderman Virgil Jones. Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay. And I want to thank you again for accepting the invitation to come to the Underground Railroad. And Brother Chet, if you're watching, hi. Thanks for introducing us. Okay. And tell us something about yourself before we get into the meat of the conversation.
Well, for those that do not know me, my name is Brother Salim Abdul Khalik, which is, of course, an Islamic name, meaning peaceful servant of the Creator. And about 16 or more years ago, I founded an organization entitled the Flaming Crescent Society, which is an organization designed to uplift the memory and spiritual and cultural political legacy of a world-famous brother by the name of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, known to most American people as Malcolm X.
Yes.
And we founded a newsletter in Brother Malcolm's memory. I got that idea from a publication that he did some years ago entitled By Any Means Necessary.
Yes, sir.
Which is, he stated in the book that if he had an opportunity, that he would start another newspaper and would name it the Flaming Crescent because he wanted to set the world on fire with truth.
Yes, sir.
Of course, that was symbolic.
Yes, sir.
And so we founded the newsletter, the Flaming Crescent, in order to speak out against drug addiction, black-on-black violence, to uplift respect for women and children, our youth in the community.
Yes, sir.
We got out on the street corners on the west side of Chicago, and we would talk to people affiliated with street organizations to get them to understand that they had to take more responsibility for their community and to stop the black-on-black violence and self-destruction that was going on in the community. And each year, I might add, we put on an annual tribute to Brother Malcolm X. Sometimes we've done it on the south side, sometimes we've done it on the west side.
Yes, sir. And we got a question.
Well, what's the significance of keeping the legacy of Malcolm?
Well, that's a good question. I personally strive to keep the legacy alive of all of our great ancestors, the heroes and sheroes, warriors and warriorettes who came to wake us up and shake us up.
Yes, sir.
I was saying, without education and information, there can be no inspiration or motivation. The written word is more powerful than a loaded gun. We must educate to liberate. I say again, we must educate to liberate. We are the only race of people on the planet when it comes to knowing about our history and uplifting the memory of our great ancestors. Many of our people take, not all, but many of our people take the position that that is not something that I choose to discuss. This is not something that I want to hear about. But one day I bumped into a Jewish rabbi, and I asked the Jewish rabbi the question, why is it so important for the Jewish people to spread information about the Holocaust in Nazi Germany to their people? What is the significance of this? And the Jewish rabbi told me, he said, young man, we start at an early age with the young Jewish males and females. And one of the reasons why we do this is because we want to inculcate into them the significance and the legacy of the Holocaust, because by doing so, hopefully, this would put the idea in human beings that this was such a horrific thing that it would never be repeated again. And so I went home thinking about what the Jewish rabbi, and I said, if it was so significant for the Jewish people to know about their history and the great catastrophe that nearly wiped out 6 million Jews, then how much more important is it for us as black people, people of African descent, to know about the legacy of our great ancestors? After all, W.E.B. Du Bois and Brother Malcolm documented the fact that at least 100 million black people lost their lives in the Middle Passage and the plantation servitude that occurred for 400 years.
Wow. You know, you have some people out there that, in my opinion, are very foolish. Some people might say, how did you put Malcolm X before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And he was the teacher. And I think that's very foolish, but I want to, get your take on that. I don't know if you...
Well, I'd like to say, once he says that, and before he says that, to keep in mind that Elijah Muhammad had a teacher too.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Good point. Let me first of all say, because in my effort to uplift the memory of Brother Malcolm, I have often incurred and run into those, who are highly critical of my efforts.
Yes, sir.
To remember this great, great brother. And first of all, let me reply by saying, in no way do I have an intent to disrespect the memory of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Without Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there, of course, could not have been a Malcolm. But we must remember, in all fairness, that without Master Farad Muhammad, there could not have been an Elijah Muhammad. And without a Prophet Muhammad, there could not have been a Master Farad Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
So we must always give credit to where credit is due. And I give credit to Brother Malcolm because we must remember that before Malcolm came into the Nation of Islam was not that well known. It was Brother Malcolm, Nation of Islam, that led to the explosion,
yes, sir,
of Nation of Islam membership. It was Brother Malcolm that went from coast to coast, that established temples of the Nation of Islam under the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he did everything he could to uplift the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not himself. So again, we must give credit where credit is due. I must, in all honesty, confess that my first experience with Islam was in 1974 when I met a member of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
So I have to give credit where credit is due, that the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad impacted my life. However, I decided to, not, I would say, go beyond that, but expand my understanding of Islam by getting deeper into the teachings of the Holy Quran and also the doctrine as espoused by to whom the Quran was originally given.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. What does the noble Drew Ali have to do with the relationship with Elijah Muhammad?
Well, Noble Drew Ali was one of the first to introduce Islam to our people. He is another great hero who I happen to have a great deal of love for, a great deal of admiration, and a great deal of respect for. In fact, the Honorable Noble Drew Ali is a brother whose name is not often mentioned in our history in the way in which it should. There are others whose names are not mentioned, such as the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and therefore we as people of African descent, or as I sometimes say, Africans in America, and I don't like to get into a long drawn out debate as to the proper name that we call it. We can talk about that later, but in fact I just use certain terms just as a point of reference in conversation. Okay. But my point is that we as people of a great race must do more to resurrect the legacy of all of our great heroes and sheroes like the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and the Honorable Noble Drew Ali.
His full name was Marcus Mosiah Garvey Eel.
Okay.
They took the eel off.
Okay.
When they started putting it in
right
to the